The sun was beginning its slow, golden descent behind the ancient, pine-crested hills of the Whispering Woods. The sky, which had been a brilliant dome of azure all through the warm summer day, was now softening into shades of dusty rose, lavender, and deep, quiet indigo. The shadows of the giant oak trees stretched long and thin across the forest floor, like gentle fingers tucking the earth in for the night. A quiet hush began to settle over the valley, as if the world itself were taking a deep, slow breath after hours of activity. In the highest branches of a majestic, moss-draped oak tree lived Silas, an old and wise owl with feathers the color of polished chestnut and eyes that held the calm depth of a twilight sky. Silas was a creature of the night, but he was also the guardian of the forest's peace. He watched the transition of day into night with a deep, patient appreciation, knowing that every creature needed its time of rest. The evening air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and sweet pine resin. Silas slowly unfurled his wide, soft wings, stretching them against the cool breeze, before folding them back neatly against his body. He was ready for the night, a time of quiet reflection and gentle observation. The forest below him was slowly winding down, the busy chattering of the birds fading into occasional sleepy chirps, and the scurrying of the ground animals slowing to a gentle rustle in the undergrowth. The forest floor was covered in a thick blanket of fallen leaves and soft pine needles, which muffled the sounds of the night, creating an atmosphere of deep solitude. Silas closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the very heartbeat of the woods, feeling the ancient rhythm of the earth as it prepared for its nightly slumber. The moss on his favorite branch was damp and cool, a comfortable perch where he had sat for many years, watching the seasons change and the generations of forest creatures pass by. He knew every tree, every stream, and every path in these woods, and they knew him as the quiet watchman who kept them safe in the dark. N/As the first evening star blinked into existence, a small, frantic rustling disturbed the quiet of the lower branches. It was Pip, a young red squirrel whose tail was still twitching with the residue of a busy day. Pip spent his days leaping from branch to branch, gathering acorns, chasing his siblings, and marveling at the endless wonders of the forest. He was full of life and curiosity, always eager to see what was around the next corner or what lay at the top of the next tree. But when the night arrived, Pip found himself in a difficult position. While the other squirrels curled up in their cozy nests of leaves and moss, Pip's mind continued to race. His eyes remained wide, and his paws felt as though they still wanted to run. He climbed up to Silas's branch, his chest heaving with frustrated energy. He hopped from one foot to the other, unable to stand still, his eyes darting around the darkening forest. He looked up at the old owl, hoping for some comfort or perhaps a solution to his sleeplessness. Silas looked down at him with a calm, steady gaze, his presence alone acting as a gentle anchor in the swirling night. The young squirrel was breathing rapidly, his small heart beating like a tiny drum. He explained that his thoughts were like a swarm of fireflies, flashing and darting in every direction, making it impossible to find a quiet place to rest. He had tried counting acorns, he had tried lying perfectly still in his nest, but the more he tried to sleep, the more awake he felt. The darkness around him felt alive with questions and possibilities, and his body was tense with the leftover energy of his daytime games. He was desperate for rest, but the gateway to sleep seemed closed and locked against him, leaving him stranded in the waking world while everyone else slept. N/N Silas turned his head with slow, deliberate grace, his large, golden eyes reflecting the soft glow of the evening star. He did not speak immediately, allowing the silence of the night to settle between them first. The quiet of the woods was a physical presence, a soft weight that seemed to encourage stillness. When Silas did speak, his voice was like the low, warm hum of a cello playing in a quiet room, carrying a soothing resonance that seemed to vibrate through the very bark of the oak tree. He asked Pip why he was still awake when the sun had already gone to sleep and the moon was rising to take its place. His words were slow and spaced, giving Pip time to absorb the sound and the meaning. Silas explained that the night was not an enemy to be fought, but a friend that offered a peaceful sanctuary from the busy demands of the day. He invited the little squirrel to sit closer, to find a comfortable spot on the thick, green moss that covered the old oak branch. The moss was soft as a cushion and held the cool moisture of the evening, a perfect resting place for a tired traveler. Silas told Pip that it was natural for the mind to carry the energy of the day, but that like the sun, the mind must also learn to set. He promised to guide Pip through the 5 lessons of the night, simple practices that would help him let go of his worries and find the path to quiet sleep. Pip looked up at the massive owl, feeling a sense of wonder and safety in his presence. The old oak branch felt strong and steady beneath his paws, a solid foundation in the vast, darkening forest. He decided to trust the wise old bird and do exactly as he was told. /n/n Silas instructed Pip to sit comfortably on the thick, green moss of the branch, to let his paws rest heavily by his side, and to close his eyes just halfway, letting in only a tiny sliver of the darkening world. Silas told him that the first lesson of the night was the breath of the wind. He explained that the wind is the breath of the forest, and by connecting with it, we can connect with the deep, slow rhythm of the earth itself. They sat together in silence for a moment. Silas breathed in slowly, his chest expanding under his warm, soft feathers. As he breathed in, a gentle breeze rustled through the oak leaves, a soft, dry whispering sound that seemed to fill the forest. Then, Silas breathed out, and the breeze faded away, leaving the forest quiet once more. Silas told Pip to match his breathing to the wind, inhaling as the leaves whispered, and exhaling as they fell silent. Pip tried. He took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill his small lungs. It smelled of damp earth, sweet pine needles, and the faint, clean scent of rain from a distant valley. He held it for a brief moment, then let it go, matching his exhale to the fading rustle of the leaves. At first, his breath was quick and shallow, reflecting the frantic pace of his day. But Silas guided him patiently, breathing with him, his own slow, steady rhythm acting as a guide. Silas reminded him that there was no rush, that the night had all the time in the world, and that each breath was a step away from the busy day and a step closer to the quiet night. With each cycle of breath, Pip felt the cool air soothe his throat and chest, while the warm exhale carried away the physical tension in his small muscles. The world seemed to shrink until there was only the sound of the wind, the rustle of the leaves, and the steady, calming flow of his own breath. /n/n As Pip focused on the rhythmic rising and falling of his breath, he noticed that the tightness in his shoulders began to melt away. The breeze seemed to carry a little bit of his restlessness away with every gust, leaving him feeling lighter and more relaxed. The rustling of the leaves became a comforting, predictable song, a steady lullaby that played just for them. Pip felt his paws grow slightly heavier against the moss, the desire to run slowly fading. He realized that he didn't need to go anywhere or do anything, he only needed to sit here and breathe. The old owl watched him with approval, his golden eyes shining softly in the twilight. Silas explained that the wind does not try to blow, it simply flows because it is its nature. In the same way, we do not need to force ourselves to relax, we simply need to let nature take its course. He told Pip to feel the support of the oak branch beneath him, a branch that had stood strong through many storms and was now holding him up without effort. Pip let himself sink a little deeper into the moss, feeling the solid wood of the tree beneath him. He felt connected to the roots of the oak, which went deep into the cool, dark earth, drawing up strength and stability. He felt connected to the branches above, which reached up into the infinite sky, catching the starlight. He was no longer a separate, frantic creature, he was a part of the forest, breathing with the wind and resting with the tree. The frantic thoughts of the day began to seem distant and unimportant, like noises from a far-off valley that no longer had any power over him. /n/n Silas then told Pip that they would listen to the second lesson, the song of the distant stream. He instructed Pip to let go of the wind and focus his hearing on the valley below, where the silver waters of the brook wound their way through the smooth, black stones. He explained that the stream is the voice of the forest, a continuous, soothing sound that carries away the worries of the day. Pip kept his eyes closed and let his ears wander down from the high canopy of the oak tree, down past the sleeping ferns, and into the cool, rocky glen. He heard it then, a soft, liquid gurgling, a continuous, gentle murmur that rose and fell in a soothing cadence. The water was flowing, always moving, but it did so without effort, sliding over the obstacles in its path, polishing the stones until they were smooth and round. The sound was steady and constant, a peaceful background hum that seemed to wash over the entire forest, enveloping everything in a soft, liquid embrace. The stream was a path of silver light in the darkness, a ribbon of pure energy that was always clean and always fresh. Silas spoke softly, explaining that the stream does not fight the rocks in its bed, it simply flows around them, letting them go as it moves toward the great, calm lake. He told Pip to imagine his thoughts as tiny twigs falling into the stream. When a thought about the blue jay or the pinecone appeared, Pip was not to grab onto it or worry about it. He was simply to drop it into the water and watch it drift away, floating silently downstream until it disappeared from sight. He explained that thoughts are just like these twigs, they come and they go, and we do not need to hold on to them. They are not who we are, they are just things that pass through our minds, and the stream of the night is always ready to carry them away. /n/n Pip tried this new game. A thought of the high branches he wanted to climb tomorrow popped into his head. Instead of thinking about how he would reach them, he imagined placing the thought onto a dry oak leaf and dropping it into the silver brook. He watched the leaf spin slowly in a gentle eddy, then glide smoothly over a flat stone and float away into the darkness. Another thought appeared, a memory of the blue jay's loud chatter, and he did the same, letting it drift away on the current. With each thought he let go, his mind felt lighter, cleaner, like the washed stones at the bottom of the stream. He began to feel a sense of space inside his head, a quiet stillness that he hadn't felt all day. The constant chatter of his mind began to quiet down, replaced by the soothing, liquid sound of the brook. He realized that he didn't need to solve any problems tonight, he didn't need to plan his day tomorrow, he could simply let everything flow away. The stream was endless, and its capacity to carry away his worries was infinite. He let go of his worries about being a good gatherer, his fears of the dark, and his eagerness for tomorrow. He let them all fall into the cool, silver water, watching them dissolve and disappear. The sound of the water seemed to fill his ears, drowning out the silent chatter of his own voice. The rhythmic, splashing music of the brook was steady and unchanging, a reminder that some things in the forest moved with a calm, eternal patience. Pip's tail stopped twitching, resting softly against his back. He felt himself sinking deeper into the moss, his body becoming a part of the tree itself, rooted and still. The stream carried away his restlessness, leaving behind only the cool, clear water of peace. /n/n Silas watched the young squirrel, noting the gradual slowing of his small chest. The old owl then pointed his beak toward the sky, guiding Pip's attention to the third lesson, the blanket of the stars. He told Pip to open his eyes just a crack and look up through the gaps in the leafy canopy. He explained that the stars are the eyes of the night, watching over the forest with silent, loving care. Above them, the sky had turned a deep, velvety black. Spreading across this infinite canvas were thousands of tiny, glittering stars, shining with a cold, pure light. They seemed so far away, yet their light was incredibly clear, piercing through the dark to touch the forest below. They formed patterns and pathways, silent stories written in the heavens, stories that had been told since the beginning of time. Silas explained that the night sky was a great, soft blanket that wrapped around the entire world, protecting it while it slept. He told Pip that each star was like a small, quiet candle, lit to show that even in the dark, there was warmth and guidance. The dark was not something to fear or resist, it was a quiet space, a gentle pause between the days, where everything could rest and rebuild its strength. The stars did not struggle to shine, they simply shone, effortless and beautiful, casting their silver light upon the sleeping earth. They had been there for millions of years, watching over the mountains, the rivers, and the forests, silent witnesses to the passage of time. They did not worry about tomorrow, and they did not regret yesterday, they simply existed in the eternal present, sharing their light with all who looked up. Pip looked at the stars, feeling incredibly small but also incredibly safe. The vastness of the sky seemed to absorb all his worries. His problems, his plans for tomorrow, his arguments with the other forest creatures, all of them seemed tiny and unimportant beneath the grand, silent dome of the night. He felt as if he were lying down on a soft cushion of starlight, suspended in a quiet, peaceful space where nothing was expected of him. He was just a small squirrel in a vast, beautiful universe, and that was enough. /n/n Silas's voice drifted down like a falling feather, telling Pip that the stars had been shining for thousands of years, watching over the forest, and they would continue to shine long after they both had gone to sleep. There was nothing that Pip needed to do tonight except let himself be carried by the rotation of the earth, resting under the silent gaze of the night sky. He did not need to plan, he did not need to prepare, he only needed to trust in the steady, unchanging order of the cosmos. The stars were a reminder of the vastness of creation, a space so large that his small troubles could easily be lost within it. He imagined his mind expanding to match the size of the sky, becoming wide and dark and quiet, with his thoughts as tiny, distant stars that did not disturb the deep peace of the space between them. The silence of the heavens seemed to fill him, bringing a profound sense of stillness to his soul. He felt the cool light of the stars bathing his fur, washing away the last remnants of his daytime fatigue. The night sky was a giant, protective dome, keeping the cold wind out and the warm peace in. Under this great canopy, the entire forest was asleep, and Pip was a part of this global rest. He let his eyes close a bit more, the brilliant points of light transforming into soft, glowing halos that danced gently in the dark. He felt a deep sense of connection to the universe, a feeling that he was a necessary and loved part of this beautiful, sleeping world. The stars would watch over him, the old oak would hold him, and Silas would guard him. There was nothing to fear, nothing to do, only to be. /n/n Next, Silas spoke of the fourth lesson, the scent of the twilight. He told Pip to take a long, slow breath through his nose and discover the hidden perfumes of the night forest. He explained that the night has its own scents, different from those of the day, scents that are designed to soothe and calm the senses. Pip breathed in, focusing all his attention on his sense of smell. During the day, the forest smelled of warm pine, bright flowers, and the busy activity of the sun. But now, in the cool dampness of the evening, new scents emerged. He smelled the sweet, delicate fragrance of the evening primrose, a flower that opened its petals only when the sun had set, releasing its perfume into the quiet night. He smelled the rich, earthy scent of damp moss, the sharp, clean aroma of wet stone, and the gentle, sleepy sweetness of wild jasmine climbing up a nearby birch tree. These scents were cool and soothing, carrying none of the bright, stimulating energy of the daytime flowers. They were calming, grounding smells that seemed to invite the body to sink deeper into the earth. Silas explained that the night flowers bloom in secret, without needing the applause of the sun or the busyness of the bees. They simply exist, sharing their beauty and fragrance with the quiet night, content to be exactly what they are. They do not strive to be noticed, they are simply present, adding their quiet voice to the evening. They teach us the beauty of quiet existence, of blooming in the dark without the need for validation. Pip let the soothing scents fill his mind, imagining them as a soft, aromatic mist wrapping around his body, easing the tension in his muscles. His limbs felt loose and heavy, like dry branches ready to rest. The cool air in his nose felt refreshing, washing away the last traces of daytime heat and excitement. The scents were like a gentle hand stroke, smoothing out the rough edges of his thoughts, wrapping him in a cocoon of natural comfort. He felt as if he were breathing in peace and breathing out tension, a simple exchange that left him feeling deeply restored. /n/n Silas then guided Pip to the fifth and final lesson, the symphony of the sleeping forest. He told Pip to listen not just to one sound, but to the collective quiet of all the creatures resting around them. He explained that when the forest sleeps, it creates a powerful field of peace, and by listening to it, we can join in that peace. They sat in the deep silence, and as Pip listened, he began to hear the tiny, subtle signs of a forest at rest. He heard the soft, rhythmic breathing of a family of deer sleeping in the tall ferns below. He heard the gentle rustle of a field mouse curling up in its nest of grass beneath the roots of the oak. He heard the quiet, occasional chirp of a sleepy bird high in the birch tree, murmuring in its sleep before falling back into silence. The forest was not empty, it was full of life, but it was a life that had transitioned into a state of quiet rest. Every creature, from the largest deer to the smallest beetle, was yielding to the night, trusting that the sun would return in the morning and that, for now, the most important task was to rest. The trees themselves seemed to be sleeping, their branches drooping slightly, their leaves still and quiet. The whole forest was a single, breathing organism, slow and peaceful. Silas spoke in a whisper, his voice barely louder than the rustling leaves. He told Pip that sleep is a gift we give to ourselves, a time to let go of the world so that it can renew itself. The forest was holding him safe. The old oak tree had roots that went deep into the earth, holding them steady against the wind. Silas himself would remain awake, watching over the branches, keeping a vigilant eye on the shadows so that Pip could sleep without worry. He was the watchman of the night, and under his care, Pip was entirely safe. The collective peace of the sleeping creatures seemed to press against him, a soft, warm pressure that encouraged his own surrender to sleep. He was one of many, all sharing this quiet time of rest, all united in the gentle darkness. /n/n Pip felt a warm wave of gratitude flow through his small body. He looked at Silas, whose large, golden eyes were warm and protective. The old owl looked so strong, so peaceful, sitting on the mossy branch as he had done for many years. Pip knew he could trust Silas. He knew he was safe. He felt the massive strength of the oak tree beneath him, a living tower that had stood for centuries, sheltering countless creatures through the nights. He felt the gentle embrace of the forest, a home that loved and protected him. Pip's head began to droop, resting against the soft, green moss of the branch. His breathing had become slow and steady, perfectly synchronized with the gentle sighing of the wind through the oak leaves. The thoughts of the blue jay, the pinecone, and the high branches had all drifted away down the silver stream, leaving his mind clear and quiet, like a still pool reflecting the stars. The energy in his paws had completely dissolved, replaced by a comfortable, heavy warmth. The starlight above seemed to wrap around him like a soft, silver shawl, keeping him warm in the cool night air. The sweet scent of the evening primrose lingered in his nose, a gentle anchor to the peaceful present. The distant murmur of the brook was a continuous, soothing murmur, a steady rhythm that guided him deeper and deeper into relaxation. He felt himself sliding down into a soft, dark sea of peace, where the water was warm and the waves were gentle. Silas watched the young squirrel's tail stop moving completely, laying flat and soft against the branch. Pip's eyes closed fully, his tiny chest rising and falling in a slow, peaceful cadence. The restlessness had gone, replaced by a deep, natural slumber. The young squirrel was finally asleep, his journey into the night complete. He had found his quiet pool, his still water, and he was resting, safe in the arms of the whispering woods, guarded by the ancient owl on the mossy bough. /n/n Silas did not move. He remained perched on the mossy branch, a silent guardian in the twilight. He looked up at the stars, then down at the sleeping forest, his heart filled with a quiet satisfaction. The night was doing its work, healing the tired, restoring the energetic, and preparing everyone for the new day that would eventually come. But for now, there was only the quiet, the wind, the stream, and the deep, restorative sleep. The forest slept, and Silas watched, a patient shadow in the silver light. The hours of the night passed slowly and peacefully. The moon, a bright silver crescent, climbed high into the sky, casting long, cool beams of light through the branches of the great oak. The light touched Pip's red fur, making it glow with a soft, ethereal light, but the young squirrel did not wake. He was deep in a dream of flying through the starry canopy, weightless and free, guided by the warm, cello-like voice of the wise old owl. He was soaring over the treetops, the wind supporting him, the stars guiding him, completely at peace. In the valley, the mist began to rise from the stream, wrapping the lower trees in a soft, white blanket. The world was quiet, wrapped in the deep, healing sleep that Silas had helped Pip find. And Silas, the guardian of the night, sat silent and still, his eyes shining in the dark, watching over the sleeping woods with a timeless, patient love. The mist moved like silent ghosts through the trees, softening the lines of the forest, creating a dreamlike landscape where everything was soft and quiet. The dampness in the air carried the cool scent of the water and the rich moss, a fragrance that seemed to lock in the quiet of the night. Silas blinked slowly, his vision piercing the darkness, ensuring that no danger approached his sleeping charge. The old tree seemed to sigh, a low creaking sound that was a testament to its age and strength, a sound that only added to the depth of the forest's peace. /n/. As the midnight hour arrived, the wind died down to a gentle whisper, barely moving the leaves of the old oak. The stream continued its soft, bubbling song, a steady, low hum that filled the quiet valley. The stars shone on, millions of tiny lights in the vast, dark sky, watching over the sleeping earth. The forest was locked in a deep, restorative embrace, a silence that was rich and full of life. Pip slept on, his breath slow and deep, his paws relaxed and still. The lessons of the night had done their work. He had learned to breathe with the wind, to let go of his thoughts like twigs in the stream, to rest under the blanket of the stars, to smell the calming scents of the night, and to join the silent symphony of the sleeping forest. He was no longer a frantic squirrel caught in a whirlwind of thoughts. He was a child of the forest, resting in the safe embrace of the night. His sleep was deep and dreamless now, a pure, quiet rest that rebuilt his small body. Silas watched over him, a steadfast sentinel who knew the value of this silent time. The old owl understood that without the dark, there could be no light, and without the rest, there could be no run. He felt a deep connection to the small creature beside him, a responsibility to ensure that his dreams were sweet and his sleep undisturbed. The moon continued its slow journey across the sky, a silver boat sailing in a dark ocean, casting its light upon the world below. The shadows shifted slowly, changing the patterns on the forest floor, but the peace of the whispering woods remained constant and unbroken. It was a holy time, a time of healing and restoration, when the earth healed itself in the dark, /n/. The night wore on, a peaceful journey through the dark, leading slowly but surely toward the dawn. The whispering woods slept, protected by the old oak, the silver moon, and the wise owl, whose quiet presence was a promise of safety and peace for all who lived within their embrace. The air remained cool and still, the silence unbroken, a quiet that wrapped the world in love. As the stars slowly began to fade and the first hint of light appeared in the east, the peace of the night remained, a lingering blessing that would stay with the forest throughout the coming day. Silas closed his eyes for just a moment, breathing in the quiet dawn, before opening them again to watch the rising sun, his night duty complete, his heart at peace. The deep moss on the branches of the ancient oak seemed to hold the cold moisture of the night, providing a soft and cushiony bed for Pip. The young squirrel did not stir, even as the light began to change. He was entirely surrendered to the deep, restorative power of his sleep, his small muscles relaxed, his breathing deep and even. Silas looked at him one last time, a gentle expression in his great golden eyes, before looking out over the valley. The mist was beginning to clear, revealing the sparkling green of the pine needles and the damp brown of the forest path. A new day was beginning, but the lesson of the night was learned, and the peace of the whispering woods remained unbroken, a silent, eternal truth that would always guide them home. The sky changed from dark indigo to deep violet, then to a soft, smoky gray, before the first warm fingers of pink and gold reached over the horizon, painting the clouds with the colors of a new beginning, /n/. The soft breeze that always accompanied the dawn began to move through the canopy, carrying with it the fresh, clean scent of the morning. It was a different scent from the night, full of promise and movement, but it was also a reminder of the cycle of rest and activity that ruled all life. The birds began to wake, their first tentative songs rising from the bushes, a sweet, quiet chorus that heralded the return of the sun. But Pip slept on, protected by the fading shadow of the old owl, until the first warm ray of sunlight touched his nose, gently calling him back to the world of the day. And when he did wake, his eyes would be bright, his heart would be light, and he would carry the quiet peace of the night within him, a secret treasure that would keep him calm and happy through all the adventures of the new day. Silas perched silently as the forest came alive around him. He felt the warmth of the sun on his feathers, a welcome contrast to the cold air of the night. His work was done, and now it was his turn to rest. He would sleep through the bright hours, his mind quiet and still, knowing that he had helped a young friend find the peace of the night. He folded his wings tighter around his body, tucked his head slightly, and let the warmth of the sun guide him into his own quiet sleep, a peaceful end to a night of gentle lessons. The great oak tree stood firm, its branches whispering in the morning breeze, a silent monument to the power of rest and the beauty of the night. And the forest continued its eternal dance, a rhythm of light and dark, action and repose, forever turning, forever resting, in the safe and loving embrace of the earth, a world of peace and endless dreams.